Okay, so this is our next installment of the Profit Mastery book review. I changed it to book review instead of book club because it's not really getting together to read a book and discuss our learnings. This is more a, hey, I'm sharing the things that I've read from a book. It's one that I think you should add to your list, and here are some takeaways that you should remember from it. So, Profit Mastery book review. Once a month, share a book recommendation, few takeaways and highlights. It'll probably be 10 to 15 minutes in length. And the goal here is just to compound our learnings, right? So I'm an avid reader. I've got this nice, neat database of books that I've read. I keep notes on all of them and I tag them with, here was the topic. Here were the things that I enjoyed from it. So my goal is to try and share these things with you, and hopefully you can add to your learning and maybe increase the pace at which you're able to read books vicariously through me. So that's our goal. So today we're going to talk about a book called Small Giants by Bo Burlingham. It's 304 pages in length, so it's a pretty easy read. This is in the business category with a little bit of a different twist. It's the format is really stories about small businesses. I say small, but some of them were actually quite large that chose to be great. And in my words, I put the words profitable instead of trying to get big. So these are companies that did not chase massive revenue growth, trying to be the biggest, greatest, best, well-known company on the planet. They chose to be great operators and run their companies really well. And so I think there were some interesting takeaways from that philosophy because there's not a lot of people that think that way. So that's the format of the book. He talks about a handful of different companies from different industries. Cliff Bar was one of them. Zingerman's a cafe business that actually spawned multiple different businesses in it. Self-storage type company. So lots of different industry variety in this book. Okay, so on to my takeaways. And let me see, I'm going to try and move this out of the way so you can see it clearly. Okay, so these are unfiltered notes that I took as I was reading this book. I just kind of type them away. I didn't add all of them to this list, so this is just a select few that I thought were really worth sharing with you. So Zingerman's, this is an awesome story, and if you haven't heard of Zingerman's in Ann Arbor, Michigan, you should go look it up. As someone who is also trying to own a handful of different businesses and different industries, I just was really taken by their vision of having 12 to 15 separate businesses within 10 years. Like that was their goal. And they were creating all of these things from scratch. They weren't doing it through acquisition like I have. But they spawned a whole bunch of interesting businesses that were really well run and ultimately created a model, this holdco model that's become really popular in a very interesting way. So I just thought that was a takeaway worth sharing. It's interesting is many people start a business or own a business, especially if you've been in it at it for a long time. Occasionally you can just naturally find yourself getting into new industries, new markets, and ultimately spawning a whole new business within your business. So I just thought that was a really great story. So obviously it's much deeper in the book. Hiring people with ambition instead of people who just want to grow, right? So not everybody is interested in growing, right? But the best people to hire are those people that want to find a better way to do something, right? They're more fascinated by the challenge. They're more fascinated by trying to fix things or get a little bit better each and every day. That is really interesting. As an ambitious person who views the world that way, that was just a truly interesting takeaway. So look for people with ambition, but that also want to get better, right? Get better at what they're doing and what the company is doing. CapEx. This was like the single greatest page in any book that I've ever read, and it is so succinctly laid out what CapEx is, how to understand it, how to think about it. Like I almost want to pause and just read this for a minute because it's so worthwhile. So let's move that. Let's do this. So CapEx. Say you're in a capital intensive business, meaning you need equipment, right? Fleet of trucks, machinery, what, even inventory, right? Just assets. You need assets in your line of business. Okay. And you're selling 100 units of something for $100 and you earn $3 after tax, right? So that's just like the nature of your business. So if you want to grow 10%, then you need to make 10 more units, right? So selling 100 units this year, if you want to grow 10%, you got to sell 110 units in the next year. If you have $2, if you have to invest $2 for every new unit, meaning you need $20 to grow that 10%, and you had $3 of after-tax profit, well, you can't afford it, right? You can't afford it. So there's like this limitation on growth based on how much profit you have to reinvest in new assets, right? So it's just such a simple explanation to understand that. So the point here being, if you don't already understand this, is that your growth is totally and completely limited by how much capital you have, right? And what profits you have in order to reinvest. And if you're trying to grow faster than the profits you have to reinvest, well, then you're gonna have to either borrow money or go raise money from equity, right? Or bring more money to the table. So just what a great story that he shares in this book on the concept of capex and taking what is normally a really, really challenging concept and distilling it down into, I don't know, I thought it was super easy to understand this way. So, and also he has this other story where he talks about how it's almost impossible to grow in like tiny little units, right? You have like these minimum increments that you have to jump up. A good example would be like in a warehouse, right? If you're growing 10% a year, and you've got a warehouse, you can't just add like 200 square feet to your warehouse. No, you got to move from 10,000 square feet to 30,000 square feet. Like it's not small increments that you can jump up. So I don't know, really, really, really great concept on capex. So it's worth it for that. The book is worth it for that one chapter alone. More stuff on employees, right? And just finding good people and working with good people. Talking about gamification. There's another book that we'll do later on gamification, but like trying to create games within your companies to accomplish things, with prizes and stuff like that. I think those are all really fascinating stories whenever I read about those concepts. Treating your employees right. So, having bonus programs or sharing in the success of the company, just really easy things to accomplish. And then training, this whole section on training, and it's an easily overlooked area. I'm guilty of not investing enough time in this area, but taking the time to explain to someone what it is, how it's done, what the goal is, what the output is, right? And then ultimately turning that into something that you can refer back to and use. So Zingerman's created a whole company for training, Zing Train as it's called. And so I don't know, there's a lot of chat about training in this book, and it's all really, really valuable stuff. So, and then oh yeah, this was so good, right? So just in the book, they distill every company needs three things: steady gross margins, right? And protecting those, a healthy balance sheet reflected by current ratio, cash to debt, and debt to equity ratios. Like, oh man, that's so great, so fitting. And then a sound business model governing how the company delivers value to customers and earns a profit in the process. So basically, knowing your business model, knowing how you deliver value to customers through that business model, like what problem are you solving for them, and being able to earn a profit in the process. So those three things, every great company just needs those three things. Like it's distilling such a complex topic of financials and business into three really pretty easy to understand areas. I don't know, I think that's super awesome. So okay, those were my takeaways from Small Giants, right? Quick and easy. I got a whole bunch more behind that, but I thought those were the noteworthy ones that you should know about. So last month we looked at Simple Numbers by Greg Crabtree, one of the quickest, most concise books I've ever read on understanding financial statements, or not total financial statements, but just reading financial statements. And Small Giants by Bo Burlingham. It's a great book of business stories. They're very captivating stories, and there's good lessons within each of those, right? So every business owner could benefit from reading these two books. And hopefully, as we go through this book club book review, we'll add to this list and we'll just get, a whole bunch of powerful learnings at the end of the day. So we'll put this up on our website for you. Take a look at Small Giants by Bo Burlingham. Thanks for joining us. If you don't already follow us, check us out at Profit Mastery. That's on LinkedIn, Twitter, basically anywhere social media exists. And if you're not on our newsletter, check that out. We send, I think, incredibly valuable weekly content on financial topics of all kinds. And we host events like this and more interactive events pretty regularly. So check that out at profitmastery.io/events. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it.